you, do you want to get straight into it and tell us the boldest thing you have ever done to push your confidence boundaries?
First of all, Tiegan, thank you so much for inviting me on here. I've been going through the other interviews you've done, your introduction video, and I think it's incredible. And I'm
Amazing.
really genuinely excited to see where you end up with this, because I think you're doing some incredible content.
Thank
I'm really grateful you invited me to be here today. So your question, okay, I'm just gonna say it how I see it, right?
Go for it.
So boldness to me implies that you're not aware of the fear,
Huh.
right? So
Yeah.
if you're bold, you just do it anyway without any thought. Bravery is when you know what the risks are, you're aware of the fear, you're nervous, and you do it anyway, and you're doing it in the moment. Courage is where you're behaving in a brave way and it's consistent. You keep on showing up, you keep on going. So in terms of bold, I might come across as bold to some people, but actually no, I tend to really consider what I'm about to do. So I could give you a really flippant answer and say, I drove a Cadillac hearse across America. I've cycled 500 kilometers up and down the Nile, across the Aswan Dam. I've bungee jumped, I've parachuted, I've set up my own theatre school. I've coached people of the highest levels all over the world. I am asked to do public speaking myself as a public speaking and confidence coach. People will say, oh, can you do some public speaking? You think, I remember one day I was sitting there and the nerves kicked in for me, right? Like that whole fear of walking up there and speaking to a crowd of people. And
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh, and my daughter, because you've got to love daughters, you know, those daughters that walk past and go, well, why don't you just take your own advice, mother? And you think, oh, thanks for that. Yes. So you literally have to kind of everything that I'm training other people to do, go back to basics, go back to basics, go, right, okay, where am I at physically? Where am I at mentally? What's right about that? What's wrong about that? And then you step forwards. I guess quitting my job at 28 and moving to the Bahamas was a big one. Walking into one of the worst prisons in the world and training 30 of their prisoners with the guard in the room who fell asleep. Yeah, I've done quite a lot of bold things, I guess, brave things, stupid things, which for me, I like to take everything that happens, whether it's good or bad, and then learn from something from it. So if something's fabulous, you know, I directed a flash mob. At the end of everything I do, I sit down and I kind of go through it and go, okay, which bits of that worked, which bits didn't work, what have I got to learn here? So, and that to me, it isn't, you could say it's about growing your confidence, but I don't actually think of it that way. For me, I don't push confidence. I know it sounds crazy as a confidence coach, but confidence isn't something you can have. It's not a thing. It's not a personality thing. It's a skill that you acquire. I've found the best way to acquire true confidence, not braggadocious, fake confidence, is your authenticity, which means heightening your self-awareness. So thinking you're fabulous when you're not, I find quite an unattractive quality. And thinking that you're not fabulous when you are, that's not serving the world, that's not serving you. So finding out where you're at and what you're good at. I mean, seriously, honestly, Tiegan, if you'd seen me trying to get a bicycle up the Aswan Dam, it wasn't good at all. Like it was, you know, it was pretty embarrassing, you know?
Did you get it up there though?
Well, yeah, but my fiance at the time, actually, when we set out, I didn't know he was an excellent cyclist. I didn't realize. And he came up beside me and said, what are you doing? Because I was clicking the gears and I went, "Ah." And he said, it sounds like it. Then he popped a wheelie and wheelied up the hill. At that point, I wanted to marry him just so I could divorce him. Yes, that was one of those moments where doing something very bold and not reading the small print about what was involved was, you know, and how did my confidence grow? Honestly, it's about showing up, doing what you've got to do. And hey, you can always talk about it afterwards, you know? Like, which is more interesting? I cycled up and down the Nile and I was absolutely flawless. Or you know what? This backside wasn't going up that hill very well at all. But at the top of the Aswan Dam, it's cobbles all the way across. So I have to say that's one for the girls and not for the boys, not on bicycles. So yeah, doing kind of things where you just step out there and sort of say yes and see what happens. So long as
Has
you're
fear ever
protecting
stopped you?
yourself. Sorry?
Has fear ever stopped you? And like, for example, obviously you went up to the top of, I can't even say it. Say it for me.
The
Kazdan
Aswan Dam
Aswan
on the
Dam,
Nile. Yeah.
and then cracked on over the cobbles. But was there a point where that situation has been in your life somewhere else and the fear has somehow stopped you and then you've came back to it another time?
Yes. And it was when I was very young and I didn't realize that I had a choice. I was told no. And
Mm.
I knew that the answer should have been yes. And because I was a kid, I sat there and took the consequences, which were insanely painful, very, very painful. And, I went, okay, I'm not allowed to do that. The learning from that is learning that even if you, do as you're told when whoever's telling you isn't for you and it's not the right decision or just not making a decision, that's still a choice. That is
Absolutely.
still on you. And so letting fear stop you, fear is really essential. Fear is from primal brain. It's there. It's in us when we're born to keep us safe. In terms of why we're here to grow the species at the end of the day. Right? That's the basic point of humans. I don't like it, right? Quite like this civilized age where you can choose other things. But essentially, fear is to stop you not being scared of that really high ledge and jumping off it because you've got no fear.
Yeah.
So fear is essential. What I do in terms of training people, so I train people to do public speaking, right?
Yeah.
In that workshop, when there's that fear of stepping up onto a stage, you have to look at what's true about that fear. So there's this phenomenal theory, first coined by Deborah Francis White of the Guilty Feminist, that if you think about public speaking and you're standing on a stage, right, what is your primal brain telling you about that situation? So you're standing up here on your own, so you're strayed from your tribe, you haven't got your buddies with you to help you out, and you're looking out at an audience, and what do you see in that audience?
Well, I guess you're just going to be seeing, of course, your primal brain is probably just seeing it as like a massive threat. There's
But
like,
what is the threat? Exactly.
I guess it's about being excluded from the tribe.
So you've been excluded from your tribe and now you're facing other people. When you
Yeah.
look into an audience, what's the scariest thing? Imagine you're standing there with 300 people in front of you.
Just
What's the
everybody
scary
looking
thing?
back. Just everybody looking back.
Spot on. Tegan, exactly. They're looking at you. They're
Mm,
looking at you, right? So what are they using of their face to look at you with?
their eyes.
Right. So you're looking out at pairs of eyes all boring into you. Your primal brain looks at that, sees pairs of eyes staring at you, and primal brain goes, I'm lunch.
Mm.
I'm the lonely gazelle on a hill, right? With all these hungry lions all staring at me to eat me. I'm next on the menu, right? So
Uh-huh.
sometimes with some people, you can actually, you're looking at sort of mantras. Not everybody, not every mantra works for every person. But what can help is when that fear kicks in and you're looking out at an audience, you go, I'm not going to get eaten. I am not going to get eaten. It's not fear of public speaking at all. It's fear of being eaten. So just having a word with your primal brain and going, you're not getting eaten. You are not dying. Right. And, I look at this, I look to see if anyone's died doing public speaking and they haven't. No one's actually died from public speaking. Nobody's ever got on a stage and the audience has launched at them and eaten them, right? So
Yeah.
it's not a true fear. it makes sense in terms of thousands of years ago, but in today's age, we are not going to get eaten. So that whole fear thing, what's scary and how realistic is it? And what are the risks? What are the potential consequences? How can this damage me? How will I recover from it? And only, if I make the choice, to come on here with you, I own that, whether it's a huge success or it's, you own the consequences of everything you do, even if you don't show up.
Yeah. And that is like those little mantras that you said, they are there for like everyday life as well. I know we're talking about public speaking, but I think just regulating yourself to being like, there's no actual danger here. We are safe. We are okay. What are the actual consequences and the likelihood of them happening? I think that's just generally really useful for life. When you was on the stage, was you say, and you got that fear come up, was you saying to your own self, I am not gonna be eaten. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
had to
good.
deliver a speech in a massive amphitheatre.
Yeah.
There's two sides to this coin. One is, there was once I was delivering and I didn't have any fear at all. That
Nice.
scared me. That was
Really?
really scary because the minute that the fear leaves you, it was like it was the day before and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I've got that thing tomorrow. And I was like, whoa, what? You're walking out in front of an audience.
Uh-huh.
That mentality of absence of fear, absence of nerves is suggestive that you're just going to rock up and dial it in. You've got no respect for your audience at that point. And when you step onto a stage, be it in a play or to public speakers yourself authentically, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about the audience. It's about what the audience, what the people you're speaking to is going to get from this, whatever material words you have and why you're standing there, why you're doing what you're doing.
Mhm.
If you kind of write it out as a map, material, audience, purpose, there's nowhere on that map I'm important. I might hopefully become important if I deliver well, if I do my job well, if the audience gets something from me, but I don't walk out there thinking about me. And the minute you start getting nervous, it's like, wait, why am I nervous? This isn't about me.
Nice. Yeah, I enjoy that a lot. Yeah, why am I getting nervous? It's not about me. But at the same time, it's
I
scary
mean,
when you
for
don't have it.
example, yourself, you've done some the interview you did with the eating disorder lady, the way that
Rachel.
you handled that, the way that you're bringing out questions from the experts you're getting to speak, by you doing that, by you considering the content for your audience, that's how you become important. That's why you matter. And I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. And yeah, I think it's kind of it's two-sided. I think as well, like sometimes I'm curious about them, but then I've also got my own experience and I'm curious to know what an expert would say. Do you know what I mean? In
Yes.
much more broad terms. Because it's one thing talking about your own life experience and being able to package that in a beautiful sentence. But then when an actual expert can be like, this happens because of this and like break it down, that's sort of like the gift that I can then deliver to my audience in such a beautiful way that
Mm-hmm.
is like beyond what I think I can do right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah. Beautiful. So, in terms of fun tasks that you give your current clients before they get on the stage, do you have any that we could do together right now?
Okay. So I'm a
For our listeners, they could like follow along if that's something that you're done to do.
Okay, so through COVID and everybody was jumping up there and everybody was spouting out these mantras and platitudes and tips and tricks and all the rest of it. I think it became a little bit blanket sort of statement. There was very little individuality. So when I train somebody, the first thing I do is look at them, look at what they're doing naturally. That's
Mhm.
great. What they're doing well. That's fabulous. So you've got some people who are up here, the sound. but their mechanics are off. Their body physicality is off. So then you focus on the physicality. And then you've got people who can stand beautifully, they've got the physicality, but their head is all over the place. So I'm looking to balance those for each individual that I work with. So I've really stayed away from giving out blanket statements, but I'll give you one. So I'll do a fun one that I enjoy, right? That kind of works for a lot of people. Imagine you're standing on a stage.
Yeah.
Now it's great. It's much better if you stand up for this, right? But we're sitting there. It's all
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
But when you're standing on a stage, yeah, and you're scared or you're nervous, and you're going into your adrenaline's kicking off, right? So you're into fight, flight, fawn, freeze, flee, whatever, right? When that happens, you're going into protection mode. So your shoulders roll forwards, you're on your toes, ready to run. You go forwards. Yeah. Your head goes down to protect your throat. You're closing off. So one of the things that I do and teach people to do is literally reverse the physicality, right? So we're not in fear. So you roll your shoulders back, roll your shoulders back, not ridiculously so, right? You just push your shoulders back 1/4 inch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lift up your chin, and then you're going to notice this. People play with it. I have met one person who it absolutely did not work for. It was
Okay.
totally the opposite, which was fascinating. But for most people, when you stand on a stage, you're going to stand on your heels. And I tell people in their shoes to just wiggle their toes to get the weight off their toes. The minute you go back onto your heels, right, straighten your spine, yeah, and then breathe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Now breathing. So whilst I'm chatting, just take some really big deep breaths, or easy breaths, or short breaths, or snippy breaths, and then just some normal breaths. Breathe however you want, but just get that oxygen into your brain and into your belly and into your vocal cords and into your shoulders and down your spine. Just get that oxygen going right through you. Just don't stop, right? Interestingly, if I take a group of teenagers, kids, let's start with little kids, which I don't particularly like, little children, but if I have to, then I work with them and I'll go, and they're all scrappy and they're all there. And you go, breathe. And they go, and you've got them absolutely where you want them. They are focused. They are sound. At some point in teenage years, during adolescence, that alters. That alters. There's some point, I don't know what it is, but at some point, people start to get the message. Don't breathe. Don't make it look like you're breathing. Don't take a breath. Don't take a breath. Just keep it up here. Oh, yeah, I'm absolutely fine. I'm breathing. Yes, of course I'm breathing, right? And training adults, okay, I can walk into a class, I've got 10 CEOs or a bunch of lawyers or a bunch of, cyber tech, IT specialists or whatever. And I say, okay, can everyone breathe for me? Take three nice breaths. Do you think they're doing it? I trained one CEO. She was this senior level C-suite woman. And I was talking to her about breathe for me. Can you just take some breath for me? She wrote it on a to-do list.
Interesting. Concerning.
Okay.
Interesting and concerning.
And if you look in the last 5 years, go search breathing technique classes and Google spits up hundreds of thousands of people who are charging all sorts of dollars and all sorts of pounds to learn how to breathe. You've got box breathing, Navy SEALs breathing, Ayurvedic breathing, Wim Hof method, this, thousands and thousands and thousands of teaching people. I tell you what, why don't you just take a breath? Just breathe, right? I'm here. I'll wait. And when you've got enough breath, then you nod because you will feel it. So when you are anxious, right? When you're nervous and you breathe, you take that fear, that anxiety, and you transform it into excitement. And you can see it when people are doing it. You can tell people who are not breathing and I'm breathing. Yes, I'm breathing. Of course I'm breathing. Are you? Try it again, right? And then eventually you get people going and you see it on their faces. They're like, oh, I feel better now. Okay, sorry. Right. Okay, what's next? It's fascinating how adults just won't take some deep breaths, right? When you're sitting there, and I've been in really stressful situations, dealing with aggressive men, right? Really horrendous. you know, those really nasty guys who are screaming and shouting and talking down to you, and you go, you just breathe, and they get so angry. What are you doing breathing? I'm just taking a cleansing breath, sir. Do carry on, right? You know, it
Maybe
really,
you need to take one too. Please.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
don't. Just let me continue my breathing so I can handle this
yeah, you just breathe.
conversation for another half hour.
Yeah, just breathe. You know what? There's a lot of things they're charging for these days. We still have free air. And if you are born, as
Uh-huh.
in you arrived on this planet, that is a universal right that you have the right to breathe. You are supposed to breathe. Get
Yeah.
on with it.
God, could you imagine a time if we have to pay to breathe?
Yeah,
God.
actually, yeah. There are dystopian novels written about just that, where people have to go and buy
Really?
canisters to breathe. Look at
Damn.
Doom, the movie, right? Where they're having to use the special
Not
tanks to
seen
breathe,
it.
the space movies, all of that kind of thing. Like going to Mars, how are we going to breathe there? Yeah. Now, I don't think it's going to happen in hopefully yours and my lifetimes.
Yeah.
But right now, where we're at, we breathe. If I get somebody who is really struggling with this, they just won't,
Uh-huh.
then I will say of them this. In 2017, I think, there was a man called Andre Breivik in Scandinavia, and he decided to arm himself, sailed across to this little island where there was a summer camp, and he shot and killed 69 children and 3 adults in minutes. And when he was on the stand, I watched the trial. At the time, I had a theatre school, and the same number of kids and adults were with me. And I was just absolutely like, the thought of running a summer school and some guy coming and slaughtering kids just really resonant. You know, when things just hit you.
Hit
I was
home.
directing a Christmas show when Sandy Hook happened, and I had the exact same number of kids and adults ratio in my theatre company. So I was like watching this guy, watching the trial. He refused to plead insanity. And whilst he was being questioned and the parents were speaking to him, he was on the stand. Oh, he was there. I remember it so vividly. He was breathing 90 easy breaths. And I remember tears falling out of my eyeballs and just being so angry. This guy was breathing. And there are so many people who are decent and hardworking and get on with things, and they solve problems and they do the very best they can, and they're under enormous stresses, and they're not breathing. I just think if that guy can breathe, everyone else needs to breathe. We need to take the oxygen for the good people. There's none left for the bad people, you know? So, and you can see when I explain this, there's certain people in the audience will have heard of him, and they'll correct the date or something, you know, and they will go, you see light bulbs going on, and they're like, wow, if he can breathe, I can breathe.
Absolutely.
So tip, look in the mirror, say, I am good enough. I am good enough. Do it for me.
I am good enough.
Say it again.
I am good enough.
Shoulders back. Breathe. Now tell me it like you believe it.
I am good enough.
Are you?
I'm smiling, so clearly I'm not feeling it. I am good enough
Why are you good enough?
because because I was just born.
Yeah. A lot of the mantras that you hear is, I am fabulous. Always? Are you always fabulous?
No,
I've never
sometimes
met a
I'm
human being who
crying.
is, I've never met a human being who is fabulous 24/7,
Not been a hot mess sometimes as well.
right?
Preach.
What's true is that every single human being is doing the very best that they can with what they've got at that moment.
Yeah.
And are you good? Who's to say? Are you good all the time? No. But are you good enough? Yes. Are you better than anyone else? No. Are you less than anyone else? No. But are you good enough? Yeah. You know what? You show up. You show up good enough. And it's fascinating, you know, working with people, and you get them to say, I am good enough. And you can sing like, I am good enough. I'm good enough. I'm going to, I'm going to, I'm going to. It's like, wait. Do you stand there and you say it as many times as it's needed until you've got it? You're rock solid. I am good enough. I am good enough. And you can hear them going through all the different inflections of, I am good enough. You know, I am good enough, right? And then you get to that, we get all of that out, all of that out, all of that out. You get all the different times until they are literally standing there going, I am good enough. That's solid. That's not going anywhere. That's universal truth. That's not dependent on who's in charge or who's in power or what job you've got or how much money you've got or whether your tights have holes in them today or not. You know, I am good enough.
Yeah, for sure. When you was on about the COVID and writing down things, one of my affirmations, I literally had to write down like I am worthy of my life, and then like I am grateful for my life. And I know that might sound a bit like off and concerning, but it was just like something that I had to literally write down because I couldn't just write down like, oh, I am worthy. I deserve this. I'm a person who attracts this into my life. Because I just had to be fucking grateful to be alive. You know what I mean? I just had to have that gratitude of actually being a wonderful, beautiful, just like human being, just by saying like, I am worthy of my life and I'm grateful for my life. Like I am grateful to just be alive.
So, in terms of positive psychology, right,
Yeah.
and the theory of resilience
Uh-huh.
and grit, which is what everybody, you know, there's this idea, I think, which bothers me, that people seem to think they're fixed, they're permanent. They're either, you know, depressed or they're not. They're mentally strong, they're not. They're confident or they're not. No, it's not fixed. Everything's like like waves and kaleidoscopes and spirals and roller coaster rides. You know, it's life, right? And resilience is something that it's your ability to bounce back quickly. And anybody thinking that, you know, one of the hard things about the pandemic was what we had when none of us could work and we had no grit. We were just literally sitting on a couch watching Tiger King. You know, there was nothing else to do. There was nobody bothering you. You couldn't have guests and run around the house frantically tidying up. There was nothing. And that nothingness was as horrible as being mega stressed. Do you know what I mean? But this idea that there's so much gets thrown at people in life and the amount of stuff that gets thrown at us, in my opinion, after 50 so many years on the planet is that, you know, people have different lives, but car accidents, not getting through, being charged for something you didn't get, your boyfriend leaving you, you cheating ex, you this, you that, you row with your mum about something, somebody, you know, passes, what, all that stuff. It seems like it's getting thicker and faster. You know, it's the stresses, the inputs, the bashes, the arrows inwards are coming at us thicker and faster every day. I know sort of when I was in my 20s, say, once every 6 weeks, I'd have something to go, you know, my mate to be involved in somebody had shunt a car in the car park. Big drama, right? You know, but now you wake up and somebody's had a car accident, somebody's lost a job, somebody's this, somebody's that, somebody's this, somebody's that, somebody's, you know, in hospital for something, somebody's in a waiting room of a hospital. It's just all the time coming at us. And to be resilient and keep showing up in those times, the theory of positive psychology trains this. Positive psychology is not about it's not about being happy. Everybody's chasing, deciding, valuing this happiness thing as opposed to the pursuit of happiness, the chance to have another day and another crack at it and keep going and bouncing back and that resilience. There's 6 factors associated with building your ability to be resilient. And the number one big hitter, if you do nothing else, is work on gratitude. So you talking about being grateful, that's like when you sit there and look at gratitude in all its different ways. So for years, every night at the dinner table with my kids, my husband, whoever we had round, was at a house full of guests. There were no phones at the table, right? If somebody came to the house and they've got their phone on, I would literally say, we'll wait. You want to put it over there? Mum, how can you do that? I'm like, no phones at the table, not my table. right? And then we'd serve dinner, chat, chat, chat. And then I'd say, oh, 3 gratitudes from each of you, go. And we'd pass it around the table, and everybody around the table had to come up with 3 things that they were grateful for. And if they needed help, you'd say something you're grateful to somebody else for, something you're grateful to yourself for, and something you're grateful to the situation.
Lovely.
Then it got to the point where people are like, thanks for cooking the dinner. I'm really grateful I did my homework, and great, I've got a house. So it's like, okay, we'll go around in alphabetical order, shall we? So give me something that you're grateful for every letter of the alphabet. Okay. Then pick something that struck you you've never mentioned before. And it could be, we had a mango tree. We had these massive, massive, like rugby ball shaped mangoes. And people used to try and break into our garden to steal the mangoes, right? And I remember one day just eating this piece of mango, and it was so beautiful. And then I'm not into meditation. I try and win, right? And my head's too busy to meditate. And I literally just had like 30 seconds being grateful for that bit of mango. Sounds crazy, right? But that pays into the bank. So when things go wrong and you feel like it's all against you and you're fed up with this and it's, God, how the hell am I going to cope with that? And oh, Christ, I really screwed up here. You've got that gratitude in the bank to kind of pull on, to
Yeah, for
withdraw
sure.
from. So, there's a lot, it's in a lot of religions and a lot of kind of mindsets. It's only should be grateful for that. Like, let me treat you badly and you have to be grateful for it. Or if things are not going well, if you were a bit more grateful or if you had a bit more resilience or whatever, it's on you.
Yeah.
And that whole thing has been like kind of messed with. And I don't like that. I don't like what's going on in the world where that happens.
Mhm.
But at the same time, being really great, like I'm really grateful you invited me here. I am actually really grateful. I'm in the
Yeah.
Bahamas and it's great to connect with somebody from Manchester you know, and it's fabulous to see, especially women helping other women,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
Instead of tearing them down or telling them what they should do, just helping women get up there. If I'm training women, there is a difference between when I train women and men, right?
Okay.
Women, a lot of women. I went to an International Women's Day event, right? I was invited to go. Nobody knew me. So I sort of snuck in the back and I'm just listening. And I heard there was certain speakers, right? And I was there to sort of assist. And I heard someone, oh, I could never public speak. I wouldn't dream of public speaking. My God, no, no. I'm so glad I don't have to. There was this job and it was amazing, but I'm not going to go public speaking. Yeah, they needed you to public speak. I wasn't doing that. Oh, I make someone else do it. Oh, what? Right? And constant, 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 constant. And I actually listed about 18 statements. And then I wrote
Was
them
that
down
from
when I
that
got,
just one woman or from quite a
no,
new?
the whole group. People were getting
Wow.
up on
Okay.
stage. People were getting up on stage and going, "Hi, I'm really bad at public speaking, but anyway, let me." Right, and then yeah, so all this stuff, and I'm noting it down. And I got back and I typed it up, and then I went, "Find public speaking, right? Replaced with driving a car. There'd be hell on. There would be a revolution, right?" I could never drive a car. Oh, I'm not doing that job because I can't drive. I don't think I should ever have to drive. I wouldn't want to drive. I wouldn't want my daughters having to drive. Can you imagine? And you consider that public speaking is how you raise your profile for whatever you're passionate about, whatever ideas you've got. It's how you influence people. It's how you win clients. It's how you win pitches. It's how you win jobs. It's how you get up there. And when women are pushing themselves down, no. I tell you another story. I was on a Zoom call, a Zoom meeting. There's 2,000 women on this call. And the presenter said, I've got to do a public speech next to this massive venue. Oh my God, I'm so nervous. Like, oh, I'm dreading it. So I wrote to her and I said, hey, look, I'm not looking for a client, but I see you're influential. If you want, I'll do a free session just to help you out for Wednesday. Like we can go over your script, etc. I got the snarliest email back. Actually, I've been to drama school. I spent £10,000 on a course. I am perfectly capable. I am more than confident. I know exactly what I'm doing. Blah, 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 blah. Right? And I remember getting this email, like, you stood in front of 2,000 women telling them you were nervous about it. It was such a big deal. My God. So to connect with these women and all these women in the chat going, oh, I know just what you think. Oh, I feel like I feel. So to connect, she had made it out like she couldn't do public speaking. She spent £10,000 on a course for someone to train her to do public speaking.
Yet she's trying to get 2,000 people to give her comfort or praise or saying, I couldn't do it, but you're going to be so brave if you do it, sort of thing. Rather than saying, I'm going to do this talk, backing herself and then backing other people to also go and do the same. Because if she's gonna spend 10K on a drama school to do a public speaking course, she obviously wants to do it. She obviously wants
Well,
what comes
what
with that.
what
So do you
she
think
has.
it's about, like, do you think she was trying to be kind to them 2,000 people by saying,
Okay, I don't know her motivations, right?
yeah, of course, of course, of course.
I
But
don't
from
know.
your perspective, what do
So,
you think
okay,
it is? Because
let's
I think so many
jump
people
out of
do
that and put it in a
belittle
bigger
themselves.
context.
Yeah.
I am employed by one of the top 6 schools in the world, and I go out. I'm in Asia for 2 weeks every year
Yeah,
training,
I saw your Hong Kong videos as well.
right?
They look awesome.
They know that you can educate a child, can be supremely qualified.
Mhm.
You can be the best in the world. You can be, a star student with 12 A levels, with, million points at at IB diploma, all of that. But your ability to stand up and speak is crucial to where you're going to end up in the world. If you want to get more money, a better job, help people you care about, then the fastest, biggest, best way to do that is to be able to stand up and speak well,
Yeah,
right?
and then
Um,
your audience
Female
actually.
client of mine in the UK, she came to me about 18 months ago and terrified, but she'd risen to the top, right? She's right up there. She'd spent 30 years in her profession. She knew her stuff. She was asked to do an 8-minute speech. Terrified. Worked with her, worked hard, right? 3 or 4 sessions, she delivered this speech. She said, I was sitting on the front row waiting to speak, and there's all these government ministers and CEOs and future clients, like big wig people. And I was
Yeah.
like, nerves. And then suddenly I remembered what we'd done in the training, and I was completely calm. I stood up on the podium. I delivered the speech. I was given 4 standing ovations.
Wow.
People constantly, literally queuing up to speak to her afterwards. She won a massive, huge, high value client from it. She said all of that was great, but the bit that got me is months and months afterwards. I'd be at a networking event and somebody would come up to me and say, "Oh, I heard you speak at the." She's done podcasts, she's hosted panel shows, she's done other speeches. She's just come back to me and gone, I've got 4 minutes in the Houses of Parliament, Lords, and I'm terrified. I was like, okay, we'll have this done in half an hour. No problem, love. You've got the basics. Let's just tweak it. Yeah. So that's her pathway, but also nothing to do with work. You want to stand up at the PTA and say, "Oh, why are we changing the uniform? I've just bought 3 kids the next year's. It's changing it now." You want to talk about what's going on in schools. You want to talk about the local council, why they're not paying for that lollipop lady to cross your kids across the. You want to stand there and talk about your passion for bridges in the northeast of England at the local library on a Tuesday night while there's tea and scones being served. Like, it's joy. It's fabulous. It's fun. It's connecting.
Yeah.
So it's super, super important. And when you can public speak, when you've got the training, right, and you've had a bit of practice, you can get up there and you can use it for whatever you want to use it for, right? Does that does
Well,
that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah. Because I guess you'll have so much confidence and belief in the things that you say, whether it's as a speech or just as your own opinion, that any kind of confrontational, like you said about the uniform, any sort of confrontational thing, you won't necessarily back down as easily, I think. I think you'll just stand there confident as you are and just be like, no, that's not on. Able to, or at least I assume you'll be able to back yourself more in any kind of like conflict or any kind of like situations, deep and meaningful conversations with your spouse or your children or your neighbor.
Absolutely.
I think when you have had a public speaking event, I don't know because I've never done one, but I'm assuming you then just believe in the things that you say and your opinions and you're able to deliver them a lot easier.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the definition of public speaking. There's all sorts out there. My personal one that I keep in my head is it is any time you are speaking to 1, 2, 3 people that you maybe don't know. So
Yeah.
it can be going for a job interview. It can help when you speaking to in-laws or parents or neighbours and you're arguing about a fence post and who's to pay to replace it. You know, you've got the techniques built into you. I mean, I've trained people who are going to court, child custody situations,
Yeah, I
or,
never thought
you
about
know,
that. Yeah, court
trained
case.
lawyers who can go into court and they've got no problem, but ask them to talk about their career path to girls in year 11. And they're like, because if you, if you think about like how we're brought up, I do liken it to riding a bicycle. So when you're a kid, usually you get a crash hat on you and stabilizers, and you're
Yeah.
taken out somewhere where there's no one else and it's grassy or it's, that rubber foam stuff. And somebody stands behind you and holds onto the saddle while you learn how to steer it. And then you fall off a bit and they put you back on and they say, oh, you're all right. And you keep going and you keep going. And then you're pedaling and you're so excited you're on the bike. You're not looking where you're going. So somebody goes, right? You train, and then you do that a few times, and then you start your cycling proficiency, and then you go in for big bike rides and really enjoying it, and you're going mountain biking, and you're doing this and you do that, and then you're in the Tour de France, right? And you're leading the pack. Okay, consider somebody who has never had any public speaking training, never even been on a bike with stabilizers public speaking training, and suddenly somebody says to them, you're in the Tour de France for the UK tomorrow. What? They've never had a safe chance to try it out, to see what their natural ability is, to see what works for them as an my style of public speaking is very different to how every single person I've ever trained is. If you and I stood on a stage together, Tiegan, how you would present and how I would present would be completely different. We're different people. But you in your authenticity, delivering, and me in mine, that's about people, that's about connection, that's about human beings being the best they can be, right? It's not about us all being the same. And you do tend to see some people who've been trained. I find that people, not always, but people who've had some sort of public speaking training by people who are not very good and give them formulas. This is how you do it. They're the hardest ones to train because you have to untrain them to get them to figure out what is working for them. So what I do with my sessions is literally put everyone in a crash hat with little stabilizers on and a little patch of glass, and I hang on to the back seat for them till they've got the balance, and then let them go on their own, and then, watch them as they steer, and they know if they steer too much, they go, oh, we won't do that next time. We'll try just a little bit gentler, or we'll try a bit, ooh, and then you start seeing them popping wheelies, and woo, we're off, and that's when it gets fun. That's when it gets fun.
And what does it actually look like? Is that without any other people, without anybody else there? Is that just
Entirely
like
depends on the
improv with
client.
yourself?
Entirely depends what somebody wants, what their price point is, I've got people who come to me one-on-one for coaching, right? And they
Uh-huh.
don't want anyone else to know. I keep my clients confidential, anonymous. Like, there's a huge amount of embarrassment. People don't want to think they need public speaking training. We're so used to seeing people up there on stage on TikTok that are so fabulous. The idea that you're not, and you want some help, seems like, oh, you won't tell anyone, will you? Train somebody who, every single time I start with a client, so I was training one-on-one, training groups, I get brought in by different organizations, industry, education, all levels, and they get different cohorts together, or I'll get, if time and budget kind of constraints, they'll have me present the basics to people, and then just, people will come up and ask me individual questions at the end of it. So it depends what format it is. But with every single person I ever begin to train, my first question is, okay, honest, and I'm really interested. I'm actually listening. I actually take note. I actually need to know this. On a scale of 0 to 10, how good are you at public speaking? So you have to stand up and say a few words to half a dozen people you work with about something that you know about, but you want to vomit in the bin and run, you're a 0. Right? You just can't do it. You just can't do it. That's a 0. If you're like, somebody hasn't turned up to do this TEDx speech and it's being broadcast to 40 million people, oh, we need you to talk about this. I know it's not your strong point, but it's a 19-minute spot on the red dot. Can you do it? And you're like, absolutely, yes, I'll be amazing. You're a 10, right? So you've got run away, terrified as a 0. Give me a TED talk, pick the topic, I'll walk on and do it like that. That's a 10, right? So where are you? You can put it in the chat if you don't want it on the YouTube video that you're doing.
Yeah. And for me personally, I'd probably say I'm a solid 4.5.
Okay. So that 4.5,
Yeah.
yeah. What has that told me about how
That
good you are?
that's told you that I'm like below mediocre.
Absolutely nothing. It's given me no knowledge whatsoever of how good you are. All that's done is show me what you think you are. And that's really important. So there was a study done in America about public speaking, and it asked people how good they think they are at public speaking and their income levels. And it
Yeah.
was literally correspondent. So however, how good you think you are matters. Of course it matters, but it doesn't tell me how good you are. I haven't seen you on stage. I haven't seen you present. I haven't,
Yeah.
nothing to do with how you're coming across to an audience. All that's doing me is, all that does is tell me what you think you are. Then I test it. So I get people, a woman will come on, or sometimes a man, and they'll say, oh, I'm a 2. I'm a real 2. Okay. You hand them, and then they start. They knock it out the park like they're a solid 9.5. That's one set of teaching. You get people who go, I'm a 9, 10 some days. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Bring it on. I've had people who go, look, I'm a 9.5. They are a 9.5. They are 9.5. Phenomenal. They are looking to me for that bit. They're looking to me for like,
Is there
is there an improvement I can make here? Right? That's what you're looking at when I'm training that end. Right? You got people who say 9.5, 10, and they get up there and they go, so, that's quite confidence and loud, look like shit. What? I can't hear you. I can't see you. You've not made sense. You're not connecting with the audience. You're not doing that. You're not doing that. They're delivering like a solid 1, solid 2. The only thing that's keep is they haven't run away, right? And when you've got somebody with that level of disconnect with their own self-awareness, that's a different set of teaching. Somebody gets up there and says, look, I'm a 4.5, and they deliver like a 4.5. I go, brilliant. This is where you're nailing it. This is what you've got in the tank. This is yours. Take that to the bank. And then we start going, right, okay, so let's look at how we get you from that. What's the next thing? Try this for me. Does that work? And people go, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, no, that feels weird. I go, just try it for me. And then they go, ooh, I'm like an 8. 8.5. Should we test it? Should we ask everybody what they think? And they're like, whoa. And you see people, and everybody's everybody's different. I keep saying that, but
it's because they are. The
yes,
freedom
yes.
humanity is like, pow.
Yeah. So you see people, and then I love my one-on-one clients because you can get so far so fast. You get to, I'm so on their team. I'm like, I
Yeah.
know when they're going to be speaking. I know I'll get in tune with them, and I'm like pinging them messages, and I get them to send me a photograph of what they look like before they walk on stage. And I go,
Yeah.
fabulous. great, perfect. That's the right tie. That's the right blouse.
Mm.
Yes, you look amazing. Or I go, quick, put your hair back. Because they've got the hair over the face. Yeah. And it's shielding them. And I'm like, ponytail now. Because who wants to see somebody with the hair over the face, right? Or I'll
Yeah.
do whatever. I'm doing last minute checks and I'm right there. And when they are presenting, I'm going, look, you don't need to be nervous because I'll do it for you. And I'm like that mum that's watching their kid go on stage to do a ballet recital for the first time. And I'm like, don't fall, don't fall. And they get up there and they smash it. And I'm so proud. But then in group situations, there's another element to the dynamic because you've got, first of all, it's almost like doing an escape room, yeah? Or going, on an outward bound adventure because it's connecting. And you see the whole class start to form. You'll see somebody sit and somebody will look at them. And when they sit down, they go, wow. And there's a connection formed. One of the most, I went into a university and it was an open workshop. Like 12 people from all years, all disciplines, all faculties. I delivered the workshop and then I finished and I had to go out and take a call and goodbye. And then as I was walking through this whole group of people who'd never met each other before, I heard this burst of laughter. And I'm walking through the canteen and they'd all jammed these tables together and they were all sitting around, all laughing about the workshop. And they're, oh, that bit where this happened, when you did that. And they were all swapping details and they stayed friends, you know?
It's exceptional. I love that. I love stuff like that, actually. I literally can't get enough of it. Like, even right now, I work as an outdoor kids activity center, but our team is exceptional. And, like, we have, like, a lot of, like, what are classed as, like, drama school kids. You're super extroverts, very confident, can hold conversations really, really easily. And, like, you just see at the end of after spending 3 or 4 hours with them, you're just, like, hugging them, you're like, "Oh, do you wanna try a bit of my drink? Oh, do you know what I mean? Trying to eat each other's, like, food and stuff like that, and it's just so nice, sort of environments because 'cause you've had such a great connection with them, and you've
That's
done
it.
little like, team building things, like workshops and stuff, and it's just nice how you can get to connect with other humans you have never met before and just have that connection with them instantly within like a couple of hours, and then you're drinking from the same cup. I just think I love stuff like that so much.
That's honestly what I'm here for. That's a really, the wisest, most incredible man I've ever had the privilege to know was dying. And I remember sitting there and I said to him, I was like, look, what's it all about? And he just looked at me as if to say, you what? I was like, what is it all about?
What
Why are we
life?
here? Like, why are we here? Like, what's the point of any? And he closed up his newspaper. He kind of looked at me as if to see whether I was worth bothering with. Because, time was short. He was about to die. Is he going to waste 5 minutes talking to the likes of me? And he decided I was worth it. So he folded up his newspaper and put it down. He said, absolutely nothing matters. What? Nothing matters. A couple of 100 years from now, even Shakespeare, nobody's going to remember him. Nothing you do, nothing you don't do actually matters. Okay? Whoa, that's going against everything. Of course, everything matters. Everything matters. Nothing matters. So you get to choose what matters. Choose well. And I was like, do you choose going into debt for a fabulous car? You know what? If that is what matters to you, crack on. Or if going to sleep at night knowing you don't owe anybody any money and driving a banger, right? What matters? What matters? And if your family matter, you make them matter. You make them matter. You let them know they matter. And for me, honestly, connection with other fabulous human beings, that's what excites me. That's why I get up in the morning. That's why I do what I do. I love it. Absolutely love it. That is what matters. I personally think that's why we're here. I don't know. That's my, and saying anybody else should think that like that. right? But for me, being able to connect with people is what matters, not what it says on my business card or what it says on my CV or, yeah.
Just that like lovely, beautiful experience with other humans. Love that. Yeah, I agree. I think that's what matters. Pretty much the top, at the top. Just having, and I think it's better when they're strangers.
I mean, strangers
I think
become
I don't know.
friends.
I just think there's something amazing about it when they're strangers or like people who like you don't really see that often, and you've just there's just something within them and something within you that just aligns somehow, and you don't know why. You don't really know their life story. They don't know yours. You only ever meet each other on these certain occasions, and there's only been a handful of times, but somehow you just have like the best time with them ever. And I just think it's sick.
On aeroplanes.
Yes, I was speaking to the most went to Morocco on February. I spoke to the most interesting man. He was like, he ended up getting like lung cancer, and then that's how he started becoming an artist again. And he was like significantly older when he did this. And he already had a child at the time. And like, just like hearing all of this stuff, I'm like waiting for his next exhibition. Yeah, it was just it like brought something out of me again because I hadn't been traveling for years, like before COVID. I hadn't gone
Mm-hmm.
traveling or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like significantly harder to meet random people. Just have that such a vivid, I could literally sit here for another hour telling you about all the conversation we had. He was an exceptional person. It was really, really interesting conversation. So yeah, aeroplanes are where it's at.
Hit me with your questions.
Oh, okay. So we've spoken a bit about like life mantras and stuff like this. And one of my questions was, what's the belief about confidence you wish people stop believing? But right at the start, you kind of said confidence isn't a thing that you just have. You sort of described it as like a state of being that you come in and you come out of. And then you described all of the other different things that you've said could have been classed as boldness and resilient and brave. But I guess if there was something that you could help people stop believing,
So
or what
it's a
words
bit
of
tricky,
wisdom.
this one, because
I know.
people, so at the end of every coaching session, be it group, individual, whatever, I always get people before they leave, not after they've gone and they forget and you have to chase them. Before they leave, they complete a form and they honestly tell me, what worked, what they've learned, what they still need help with, what they hated, what don't you like about me, right?
Yeah.
Let me clean up any misunderstandings before you walk out the door. Right, let me make sure I've nailed this. And it's so amazing and I love it. And maybe it's just semantics, but I get people going, she's given me so much confidence. Oh my God, I feel so confident. I've never felt this confident. I got so much confidence from her. Blah, 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 right? Confident, confident, blah, 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 blah. And I sit there and I'm like, no, I didn't. I didn't give you confidence. I didn't. What I do is I take away all the crap that stops you feeling you're in a confidence, right? It's like I
Yeah.
can't go to Cost Right or Costco or whatever those things and buy like some confidence off the shelf and then dish it out. Like you can't give somebody confidence. It's letting somebody based on truth know why they're good. And so, for example, one of the things that it's getting harder these days. I'll tell you this, right? For nothing. When my kids were little and they were in a school assembly
Yeah.
or somebody was singing and at the end of it, they're all like, parents are clapping like, saying, she was so good. And I would be like, no, they weren't. They were awful. They were under rehearsed. They were out of tune. They were off key. They were late for their key. Like, it's like I used to direct school Christmas shows that had 300 kids in, and it was like people would come that had no kids in there that just wanted to see a fabulous production because these kids were like, they'd gone through RADA theatre school by the time I'd finished with them, right? the sound coming out, it was like the Halle choir singing out. They were all so highly trained and amazing with these fabulous smiles. Like, you see 300 kids standing on a stage, all smiling, all with their shoulders back, all stock still, all belting it out. And the feeling of the audience, like there was people talking about it. People were moving their kids to that school and all that. I mean, but you just look at the way that people are going, "Oh, so great!" No, and kids sense that. I
Mm,
think somebody tells you
yeah,
you're amazing. Oh my God, you look so great, and you think, "Are you kidding me? I don't. I'm not." Or if you're realistic, it's one thing if you are looking great and someone goes, "You look really great," and you think, "Well, I don't." No, no, no. If you look great, own it. If you're up there nailing it on stage, okay, great, own it. But when people are blowing smoke up people's hoo-has, telling them that they're great, and it's insincere, it's not truthful, people know that deep down it resonates with them. There's a vibration. You can tell when you go and see a school show and people go like this: "If we get out now, we'll get out first in the car park before we get stuck in," right? Versus people just absolutely forgetting they exist and crying and standing on their feet and applauding and just being blown like, "Oh my God, that was amazing." There's a
yeah,
difference, right? And so
absolutely.
if I'm critiquing people, I am honest.
Mm.
And and I say, "Listen, are you ready for this? Are you sure
Mm,
you can handle it? Because I'm going to tell you." And
yeah,
when they go, you'll be surprised. People will go. I've had like one girl, she'll like, I go, "Fair enough, love. Thank you very much. I'll come back to you." And later on in the workshop, she'll stand up and go, "I'm ready for it now." I go, "You know what? This. Do it again. This time, try this." And she knocks it out the park. You have to be ready to take try things, to take some criticism. And it's who's criticizing you. Who's giving you that feedback? Do you trust them? If you don't, you have to trust the advice. You have to work with the advice. And what I do as well, I train my people to criticize. So if it's in a group, I'm training people what to look for, how to phrase it, how to make that useful, right? And you'd be surprised how quickly people pick that up. And then what you do if I've got a client is, okay, video yourself doing it. Now critique yourself. What did you think of yourself?
nice. Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yep, spot on. Yep, spot on." Pacing? I didn't pick that up. I thought it was fine. Why do you think it was fast? You thought it was fast. I wouldn't go slower. I wouldn't go faster. Try it again and I'll watch out for pacing for you. Okay, what else? What else? What else? So it's really mathematical. It's like, this is the difference, I guess, between, in some senses, men and women, is that women go, "Oh, I can't afford it. I can't do this. Oh, I don't want to go. Oh, I haven't got time for that." Whereas a man who needs to public speak, who knows he's not, he treats me like a mechanic. He's got to get down the motorway. His car ain't working properly. He pops into the mechanics. "Can you have a look under the hood?" "Yep, there you go." "All right. Yeah, no, 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 no. Wait. Come back here. Why did you turn on that? Why did you say that? Okay, try it again, but this time I want you to do that. There you go, sir. Thank you very much." Pays me into the bank account. Off he goes. If you train a man, he'll take that. He'll use that for himself. Go really far in his career. Train a woman, she'll then train her kids, her sisters, her aunts, her children, the people she works with. But it's very rare a woman will actually stump up and pay for a training herself. It'll be her business that sends her, or a mentor that pays for it, or some grant that will pay for it, or she'll be involved in a program where I'm brought in as a trainer, and then and you see her, because so many people keep in contact with me, and they're like, "Oh my God, I was in your training workshop about 4 years ago and I've always thought about it, and today I got called upon and just remember."
Yeah. But is that like that full year wait, like a
Mm-hmm.
reason to do it rather
So,
than
traits for confidence. Yeah, I don't think it's about being loud or quiet. I think it's about authenticity,
uh-huh.
really authentic. It's not something that can be given. I take away all the crap in your head that you believe in that's wrong.
Mm.
I take away all the awkwardness. I give you some safe space to practice with and truthful, like really truthful. And then you do it again and do it again. And then opportunity, right? Literally taking people who've never been on a bike and putting them in the Tour de France. That's what's happening when we're standing people up there. You want confidence. You need to practice.
And how do they do that? Through recording themselves, speaking in the mirror, asking other people to critique themselves and their work potentially?
Depends what it is, but it depends, whether I like them or not, quite honestly. I'll get them to video it and then they'll send me 2 or 3 minutes for me to critique and I'll go back to them. I always start with the positive. Now, that's not me being nice and fluffy. That's not. As a theatre director, if I'm directing its rehearsal, if I say to someone, you missed that cue, you did this, you did that, let's say mathematically, right? There's 10 things that you have to do to make that scene work, and they get 4 of them right.
Yeah.
And then I tell them the things that they didn't get right. The next scene, they'll do all those, but they won't do the right things that they've done and nailed because it's not good in the head. So they'll get a 4 out of 10 for the first run. They'll get a 4 out of 10 for the second run, but it's a different 4 points. You haven't leveled up. You've forgotten that you did that well. You haven't bothered doing that you'd nailed the first time. You have to go, right, that was good. That was good. That worked. That worked. Loved that. That was okay. That was all right. That was passable. Now what I want you to do is work on this and this. Do you want another go? Yes. Gosh. So they're still doing all the right things.
Yeah.
So they've got that bedded in, and then they're working on like whatever and each person is completely different. Completely different. So,
Yeah. And I guess even if you wasn't actually doing a public speaking, say if you was doing it as a management, somebody at work had brought you in for management, I guess you could still tweak those things to be like, maybe don't, I don't know, maybe get more comfortable with taking a breath before you start talking or
it's
not stuttering, things like that. Do you like really work on people's sort of persona?
so with breath, I've been doing this for decades, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot of what I'm doing, whenever I'm training, I literally push everything else out of my head.
Hmm.
I forget I have children. If you ask me what my kids' names were in the middle of a training, I couldn't tell you. Right? I forget everything else. My entire focus, everything that I've got is being 100% applied to that person. And I can see, sense, intuitively, I can watch. I'm a little bit deaf, right? So that means that people have to speak up and have to speak clearly so that I can hear them, which is great training, right? Because then they've learned how to speak up to my levels. Okay. So if I can hear you, 9999% of other people can hear you. So that's a box ticked. How are you looking? That's good. Intuitively. I mean, I saw this incredible thing of this woman who was saying that, women's intuition, right? Or your intuition. It's actually things that you've learned previously, but forgotten that you've learned. And I've been in theatre and presentations and speaking 50 years, man. I can sense things. It's a bit spooky, really. I have to be really careful because I can sense when you just see it. You just see it in people. You'll see a flicker of their eye. You'll see a way that they'll move their hand or whatever. And I'm like, what was that about on that word? You're not comfortable with that, are you? And they're like, no, I never say that. I was like, okay, so what would you say? And they're like, I'd say this, this, this. I said, all right, so rewrite your script, do it again. And there's no taking away the roadblocks. I'm taking away the grit. I'm taking away the stumbling blocks. It's just like you would with a kid on a bike, right? You wouldn't send a kid on a bike and have bloody rocks and boulders and fallen trees in the way. You'd move it out of the way so they've got a clear run, right? Isn't that obvious? I would have thought.
How can people work with you? What's your group settings, especially as you're working internationally as well? And then when do you come back to the UK, if you do?
I'm back in the UK in May, and then I've got a couple of other bookings. But honestly, somebody can write to me on LinkedIn. They can email me, say, hi, can you do this? I'm here, I need that. And then my programs, the way that I've set up my services and everything, every one of those is like a basic block. I was booked today for next week, to run a session, and I know I'm going to start with this. I'm going to run that, and then I'm going to tailor off. I'm going to pull a little bit from here. I'm going to do a little bit of that because that'll sort of nail what they want there.
Yeah.
So yeah, the person needs to say, I need one-on-one. I need it on Zoom. I need it in person. I've got this group here of people who are amazing, but none of them can public speak. Can you train them?
Yeah. Nice.
And
That's
then
it.
I'll work that and say, okay, well, this is when it fits. And yeah, so people just need to email me, LinkedIn message me. Love hearing from people
Yeah.
always. Love staying in touch with people as well. I'm really interested, Tiegan, to see how the changing room project and everything that you're doing grows. I think it's going to be a really, really interesting, fabulous, creative, amazing thing that I can see you helping so many people.
Thank you, Jackie. I really appreciate that. That's really kind. Thank you. I appreciate it
Thank
a
you
lot.
very much for having me.